Had some prior engagements last week and unfortunately got myself a little bit sidetracked, so sorry that I left y'all hanging there. Last week we had talked about a variety of communications systems out there besides ARES, and I sent an email out today to those of you who are on the mailing list that has a synopsis of what I presented last week and a little bit of a wrap-up we have this week. In case you're interested in learning more about those other groups. However, I would let everybody know that these other groups have MOUs with the ARES organization, so that in the event that there is a need for their assistance, if they should become overwhelmed, they would call on us to assist them as well. For those of you that missed last week, I won't go into heavy detail, except there are a variety of groups out there besides ARES. One of them is RACES, which is managed by the county. Another one is something called Saturn, which is a Salvation Army-based one. There's a Red Cross-based one. There's also something called REACT, which is a conglomeration of CB operators, amateur radio operators, MEURS operators, and GMRS operators. So they have a broader range to communicate with, but of course there's different technologies used there. Therefore, they could, across those technologies, have difficulty communicating, which is of course one of the advantages of amateur radio, is we can communicate amongst ourselves pretty freely across the variety of bands we have available. One of the things all of these groups have in common is their deployment systems. They vary somewhat, but they're generally the same. And there's generally three different levels of deployment. Deployment. And the first level of deployment in an emergency is called the Rapid Response Team. The Rapid Response Team goes by other names, but that's the most commonly used one. And what it essentially is a group of people who are prepared to deploy almost immediately in the event of an emergency. Now, of course, the problem is, with an emergency, you never know which individual who's on the Rapid Response Team might be affected. So what you want to do is have a team that is large enough that in the event that there is a need for an emergency deployment, that you have enough that if a few of them are unavailable, you can still deploy the full amount you need at the time of an emergency. The Rapid Response Team personnel are normally expected to operate in the first 24 hours. And you might, in a way, compare that to our weather nets, in that most emergencies will have been resolved within 24 hours, barring something major like a Hurricane Katrina. And likewise, the way we run our emergency weather nets is we'll call them up when the National Weather Service issues a warning for our area with severe conditions. And we may call up the net, operate for a few hours, and then shut it down when the emergency passes. That would sort of be an equivalent to how a rapid response team would work. You may deploy, maybe get utilized for a short period of time, not to exceed a day, and then just sort of pack up the toys and go home. The next level is a level 1 deployment, and that is a person who shows up who's ready to deploy for up to 3 days. Those people would usually come in the following day, sometime in the first 24 hours, but not immediately. And they would relieve the rapid response team members who may only have enough gear and equipment to go that one day. The level 1 response team people would be prepared to go for up to 3 days. After that, you have the level 2, which is usually to go up to a week. And at that point, what you're usually doing is rotating your level 1 or level 2 teams in and out if an emergency should go beyond that, because everybody's going to want to get shook loose from the stress of the circumstances they're in, go home, see the family, that sort of thing. So that's how the deployment systems generally work. Everybody's a little different. The days might be slightly different, but that's the gist of it. Now, since you could have all these different people from different areas coming together to work the emergency, one of the things that's necessary is that you have that commonality. And you've heard me talk about the FEMA courses and training that amateur radio operators can take, so that we're all sort of in sync with the agencies we might be serving. The same terminology that the local EMA uses, or the Georgia EMA, or the Federal Emergency Management Agency uses, we would use as well, so that we would all be sort of talking the same game, using the same lingo. And we're going to talk a little bit about how that works in the next presentation. That's going to be it for tonight, folks. I appreciate those of you who checked in tonight, and of course our net control stations for calling the net. I'm going to turn it back over to Lee for late check-ins, and then we'll go to the round table for any questions, comments, or other information for the good of the cause. This is WX4BK, back to net.
Is there any late check-ins? Any prefix, please come now.
This is N4GPW, November 4, call Papa Whiskey. Jerry Bowden, no traffic, no comment. Good evening, Lee. Good evening to the net.
Okay, we'll recognize N4 GPW, Brother Jerry out of Baptist. Good to have you tonight, Jerry. Back to Lee.
Is there any more late check-ins? Any prefix, please come down. Hearing none, let's go to round table with WX4BK.
Thanks again, Lee. Anybody who has any questions, comments, or other information related to tonight's topic, or just generally for the good of the cause, please call now.
KM4KRG.
KM4KRG, go ahead, sir.
Well, not exactly. This month we're going to start having a HF simplex call at 7:30 Monday. We're going to be working 10 meters, and basically we're going to try to get everybody to run a vertical antenna, so we can try to have some local simplex talk on HF. So kind of be thinking about that. You know, if you don't have a vertical antenna, a CB antenna will work just fine for 10 meter if you have a tuner. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there to the group.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, that's actually something we talked about. It is actually part of the ARES plan that's never really been tested to see if it would work, which is the ability to communicate exactly on that, on 10 meters, the band, the portion of the band that technicians can communicate on as well, should the repeater become unavailable. So that's great. The club's doing that. I'm looking forward, hopefully, to getting some kind of antenna up and participating as well. And I appreciate you bringing that up tonight, Andrew. Anybody else with questions or comments related to tonight's topic, or otherwise good for the cause, please call now. Thank you, sir. Anybody else with questions or comments related to tonight's topic, or what Andrew's brought up, or anything else for the good of the cause, please call now.